Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome. My name is Mauricio Vera. I'm the Assistant National Director of the Veteran Institute for Procurement, and I want to welcome you to session 2 of VIP's Continuing Education Workshop. And today we're going to talk about market research tools. And if I could ask everyone to please go on mute so that we can hear the presenters. Thank you. Let me tell you a little bit about the workshop. These workshops are developed to give veteran business owners the opportunity to take a deeper dive on relevant market topics. This workshop theme is how to identify relevant opportunities and develop an effective pipeline, which are, of course, very important steps that you should take in helping you to grow your business. This workshop is brought to you by the Veteran Institute for Procurement in partnership with the SBA and the Veterans Business Outreach Centers, and was developed to help veteran businesses accelerate growth in the federal marketplace. With that, I am thrilled to introduce our special guest speaker for today, and that's Mr. Richard Schreiber. Richard Schreiber. Let me tell you a little bit about Richard. He's an operations research analyst for the General Services Administration, GSA, that specializes in data analysis, application development, and process improvement, with a focus on the Federal Procurement Data System. After graduating with his master's degree, he worked for the information technology category in the Federal Acquisition Service, and now he works in the government-wide category management data team, where he improves the use of data in the federal marketplace. Richard is going to give his presentation, and then we're going to open the floor to Q&A. So please hold your questions until the end. And also, please note that the slides and the video recording from today's session will be emailed to you. And with that, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Richard this morning. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Mauricio. And thanks, everyone, for coming today. I hope y'all are excited. Today's presentation is going to be a full demo of a very useful dashboard. I'm not going to be rolling through slides or talking to you slowly in a monotone way. This is going to be very engaging. I'm going to talk to you about something that is useful and actionable and why you need it. So with that being said, the kinds of things that you're going to be learning today through this demo is what is being bought in the federal marketplace, who's buying it, when it was bought, why it was bought, how much money was spent to buy it, who's selling it, and where was it sold geographically, and also on what kind of contract vehicle. So this is going to be really great for y'all. I believe it's going to be extremely helpful. It's everything that you need, or all the questions that you have as a business owner are going to be answered, at least from a market research standpoint. Furthermore, I would like to outline the data set that's being used. This is FPDS, the Federal Procurement Data Set. So this is the same kind of data that is in SAM.gov. The only thing that's different from this is that we include something called categories, and then we also include contract vehicle names. So categories you can think of, and you'll see this pretty plainly as we get started with the demo. Categories are essentially your business industry or your marketplace. But they're very broad categories. So think of it as IT category, or facilities and construction category, or the medical category. And we can get more granular from there, and you'll see as we go through the demo. So as Mauricio says, we're going to have a chance for questions at the end. So please save your questions for then. But I will be asking very simple, basic questions for engagement, and you can feel free to put your answers to my questions in the chat as we move along. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go through this live. So please excuse any problems with perhaps internet or things as we move along, just because this is live. I would also please recommend not getting onto this tool right now, because if all of us hop onto the tool, it will slow down its speed. So after the presentation, you will receive the slides that I created, and those will have all the most important notes, all the key highlights, and all the instructions that you'll need generally in order to get to this tool and use it. So you can put your full attention today on the demonstration, take specific notes that might just be specific to you, but don't worry about trying to find the link or the steps to get to the tool, because I've already written all that down for you and it will be disseminated post. Okay. So our first link that we're going to go to will take us to something called the Acquisition Gateway. It's hallways.cap.gsa.gov. We're working on changing that name to acquisitiongateway.gov. But until then, it's hallways.cap.gsa.gov. That is in the slides. You don't need to write it down. It will be provided to you. Next step, Resources tab, and then About Category Management. These are the two steps that you need to get to go to the next page. Also provided in the slides. Don't worry about trying to remember that. Here you have a couple of links that you can use to take you to different resources that category management offers. What we're going to be working on today is data and dashboards. So we click on the data and dashboards square, and we are now at the choice between public category management dashboards or government only. We're going to use public category management because that has non-sensitive data and you do not need a password. You don't need a special permissions. Anybody from any computer can access that. So just to recap what we just went through, hallways.cap.gsa.gov, resources, about category management, data and dashboards, public category management and dashboards. Okay. Now you have a couple of choices here. The one that we're going to work on today is the CM reporting workbench. This is going to be an awesome tool for your marketing research. For your market research, I'm sorry. Could help you with marketing too, but okay. We're looking at our first dashboard here, guys. So we've got a lot of visuals, we've got a lot of buttons, we've got a lot of filters, but don't let it freak you out. We're going to be really specific about which things to start with, and it'll help you learn how to use this dashboard and how this data works and what it tells you. Start at the very top and choose what year you want to focus on. We are not done with 2023 yet, so it's not going to tell you a lot about what the federal marketplace looks like. Let's look at 2022 instead, because that year is complete and it's the most recent. If you noticed, this bottom part changed. So you can see that for pretty much all of the federal procurement marketplace, last year in FY 2022, we had $473.2 billion of obligated spend. So that means the federal government, all of the departments in the federal government obligated $473 billion to spend. And we can look at a really high level view of what they spent it on. So our pie chart here is currently broken down by category and subcategory. You can see that this is the filter for this pie chart, and it's breaking it down by category, subcategory. I mentioned that earlier. This is one of the additions that we take and add to FPDS. It's breaking up these different business markets and telling you more information about it. This isn't something that you can get from any other data set. You can only really get it from this source. If you want to look at specifically IT category spend or medical spend or facilities and construction spend, this is the data set that has it. And this is based off of vendors, descriptions, PSCs, NAICS codes. If you want to go to do the work of downloading raw FPDS and collecting all the different NAICS codes and PSC codes that may or may not fall in IT, be my guest. You could come here instead and have it broken out to you in less than a minute. So first off, let's choose a category to specifically look at. In the top right corner, we have level 1 category filter. So it filters by our top 10 most general categories. In order to choose one, you got to unclick all and then click whichever one you want. You can click multiple if you want. This is the point where I'll ask for folks to put in the chat, what category do you want me to look at? We've got IT, facilities and construction, and medical are usually the biggest. Professional services also. Anybody want me to choose a very specific one where their business falls under? Mauricio, do we have anybody answering?
I see professional services, human capital.
Let's do professional services. That one sounds good. It's a big market. So professional services has about 23.4% of that pie for the total of 2022. So let's just click apply. That's an important point, y'all. You got to click apply before it applies it. Sometimes I forget, everyone makes mistakes, no worries. But just make sure you click apply or else it won't apply your changes. So after we click apply, the pie chart has now adjusted to professional services spend. So remember, we had like $400 billion earlier, but now it's just professional services. We have a total of $111 billion. And now it's breaking it down by level 2 category. So from here, you can see, I'm going to stop moving super fast. We have level 1 category, and then we have subcategories, which makes it even more specific. So we see that management and advisory services makes up the most of professional services spend. We can continue drilling down. If we unselect all of those, look, management and advisory services. So we click management and advisory services under level 2 category. And we want to look at inside of that level 2 category, what are the level 3s? The level 3s get even more specific. Other management and advisory services, program management, program evaluation, acquisition support, policy services. So see if these names don't pop up under these smaller ones, you can just hover over it and it'll pop up and tell you the name, the dollars obligated, and the percent, the total. So I wanted to run through that just to give y'all an idea of what category management is. In fact, you can get rid of the word management because we're the ones who are managing the categories and what goes into them. What's important to y'all is how you look at the categories. Are you offering professional services? Are you offering IT services? And there are IT professional services. If it's a professional service that is specifically for IT, that goes under the IT category. If you're offering facilities and construction or any of that stuff, that's what category management is providing you through a value idea, is that we're taking that FPDS data, all of that government obligation spend, and we're parsing it out for you so you can divide up this data and the spend based off of what you sell. We can also take a look at different points here. We have the number of contracts, the number of vendors, count of records includes modifications to contracts. So you can see that in this level 2 that we're currently at, management and advisory services, there are about 89,000 awards that were given for this in 2022. All of those awards total to about $43 billion, and there's about 12,000 vendors in there. I know this is all very high level. This is not telling you a lot of specific things, and that's okay, because that's where we're starting. We're starting with very, very high level, and as we go on through this demo, we're going to get really specific. So buckle your seatbelts because we're going to keep going. Now I want to bring your attention to this breakout by filter here. Actually, I'm going to come down here first. If you want to just erase everything that we did, start from the beginning, let's go to revert. At the very bottom, this is going to be on every single page of this dashboard. You just go to revert. We've wiped everything clean. We're now to all level 1 categories, all funding departments, back to 2023. We're going to go back to 2022. I want to go to professional services again. We're going to click apply. And now what I want to show you is how to find who is buying the services. We are filtered on all of professional services. We are including all of the subcategories. So this is all of professional services. We know how much money is being spent or was obligated by the government overall in 2022, but now we want to know what agency or department is specifically buying the most of it, who's buying the least of it. That's where we can come to the breakout by category, breakout by filter, and we move it from category to funding department. You'll notice that it says funding department, agency, office. That's because it gets more and more specific. Just like category level 1, 2, and 3, the funding department, say, could be something like DoD to Army to a very specific office in the Army. I think this one, though, we break out Army. Yeah, we break out Army and Navy on their own. So sorry, that was a bad example, but that's the idea, is that funding department is your most general department. Agency might be a smaller sub office within that department, and then office could be as specific as a specific geographic location, right? So just to go over what we did still, we are in FY22, looking at all the obligated spend that is under level 1 category professional services, and we are looking at the breakout of funding departments. So we have with 18.2% DAF, I believe that's Department of Air Force. I could be wrong, so please correct me if that's not the correct acronym, but otherwise we have HHS, Navy, Army, VA, going all the way down, DoD, and you can hover over all of these to see exactly how much spend each one had. Now, let's say we want to look at DAF. We are a professional services business, and we want to go to the largest customer in the market, and we want to know more about that customer at a high level. So this is where you use funding department. Funding department is going to be the department that buys your services. Contracting department may be important, but that is not going to be a part of the presentation today, because I think funding department and category is going to be your most important filters to learn today. So again, remember, click apply. We're going to click on DAF. And remember, we are breaking this out by funding department agency. So now what it's showing us is all of DAF, but it's breaking it out by all of these sub agencies here. So you can see that there's quite a lot, and this dashboard is having a hard time showing it all to you. But you may want to look at specifically the very largest ones in this category. This name here might mean something to you, might not mean something to you. Department of the Air Force. So let's say, okay, so we are on the next level of the agency, and we're looking at a breakout of even further down of all of these sub offices. So basically, these are all your tiniest offices within the Department of Air Force. We can choose a different filter. If we go back up, go to all, we can look at a different funding department. Let's say we don't want to look at DAF anymore. We want to look at maybe the next one, like HHS. So after we go and click all and looked at the next top one, we can unclick all and scroll down to HHS. I'm just going through these to show you the different ways that this could pop up, the different kinds of insights that you can get at a very high level. So now we're looking at HHS for professional services. And we are looking at the funding agencies based off of how much spend each one is putting towards professional services. You can see that the Administration for Children and Families takes up 32.9% of all of HHS's professional services spend. You might want to start there. You also have Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, National Institutes of Health. These are all different agencies within the Department of HHS that you can start pinging or looking for in your opportunity search, because you know these guys are spending the most on professional services. And you can do this same thing for all the categories. I know we said that there was human capital in the chat. Some of y'all might have said IT, that's a big one. Facilities and construction is a huge one. And you're going to want to do the same kind of analysis. Choose what category your business falls into. Look at how the category is broken out over all of government. Then look at all of the funding departments in the government. Find one that has either the biggest or the largest spend or a very good chunk of the pie. Maybe you're already working with a agency and you're already on a contract and you just want to know more about what that agency is doing. You could come and look at the Army or the Navy or any one of these folks and filter on them and start looking at exactly how they're spending their money, and maybe adjust your business or strategize about how your business can help solve their problems. So this is the power of this just overall high level look, right? It's going to give you an idea of how many vendors and contracts are available, how much money is being spent in total, how you can break out the spend. You can even take a look and say, let's see, let's go back to HHS. I like the way that one looked. That was pretty telling. And let's go to a different breakout category because you have a bunch of different ones. So we're looking at professional services spend in the HHS for FY 2022. But let's look at the business size. You're a small business owner, so you want to know, I want to work with an agency that has a pretty good amount of small business spend. Here we have other than small business, which basically means large business. There are some that we have trouble identifying, but then other ones we have identified as small business. This is another benefit of this data set, is that we have taken all of the indicators that a small business might have, and we have created a little sub filter category that can easily tell you whether this spend was attributed or given to a small business or not. So right away, you can see that 20% of HHS's spend was put towards small business. That's $3,123 million, aka $3 billion. $3 billion was spent, and the 20%, $3.1 billion was awarded to small businesses through the HHS for professional services in FY 2022. Okay. So we talk about, who's buying what is being bought, how much is it being bought, but we still don't really know a lot about maybe things like why it was bought, who was selling it, what vendors were selling these things, and where exactly was it sold, by what contract vehicle or what geographic location. These are some things that we can start answering with more specific and more detailed dashboards. Recap before we move on to the next dashboard. These are other dashboards that you can take a look at. Category is your business industry. Funding department is the agency that is buying the services. That is all you need to know. Start with category, put in your business category, start looking at what funding departments buy services from that kind of category. Okay, we're going to go to the top N analysis. Don't let the name confuse you. I was confused when I first heard it. Basically, it's just saying the top blank, like the top 20 blank. the top 20 or less. We have a max of 20, but based off of what your filters are, you could look at the top categories, funding departments, contracts, vendors, PSC codes, NAICS codes, and it's all going to pop up right here. We're going to populate this blank space in a minute, but let's do all. Okay, same kind of function. You click all and then click apply. We're going to go to a different level 1 category. Mauricio, is there another category that people suggested in the chat that we could look at?
Yeah, there was. Hold on one second. Let me find. Somebody said medical.
Okay, yeah, let's look at medical. I've been currently working on a project for medical too to help improve the tagging of this category. That will be rolled out in a couple months. Okay, so right now we're at medical. We're looking at all funding departments, and we're breaking this top 20 or less list out by category, subcategory currently, and it's being sorted by obligated dollars. But let's say we want to move away from category, subcategory. I'm tired of talking about that. Let's go to contract. What's the top contract in the medical category based off of obligated dollars in FY 2022? So looks like this is the most amount. We don't have 20 per se. It looks more like 10 to 11. The very top one is null, not identified. The reason why is because sometimes there's not a very specific named contract that is being used. And a lot of times, most spend is falling in that area. These other named contracts are probably ones that y'all might have heard of, might currently work on, or might want to work on. What the top N analysis is showing us is that if you actually do not have any named contract, there is $16.9 billion of spend on unnamed contracts, 43,869 PIDs. That's 43,000 awards, almost 44. The next one with the most amount of spend under not identified is the novel COVID-19 oral antiviral treatment from Pfizer. And what you'll see here is that it's $10.5 billion and there's only one PID, which means there was only one award. So that is not something that you could probably compete with. But if you scroll down a little bit further, you could start seeing pharmaceutical prime vendor program. Okay, you got $8.3 billion in there with almost 2,000 awards. That might be something you can compete in. Pharmaceutical prime vendor home delivery. If that's something your business offers, it doesn't have as much spend, $2.6 billion, but it does have a lot of awards, 42,000 PIDs. The PID is the award. So that looks like something that could be very competitive. If you wanted to choose somewhere in the middle, like this one, the Army Socioeconomic Disadvantaged Small Business Contract. I do know that this contract is a pretty popular one with the Army. So if you are on it with the Army or looking to do work with the Army, any kind of, I know we're looking at HHS probably. Oh no, we're looking at all in medical. So it looks like the Army for medical is using that one. It has about 870 PIDs. So yeah, I think this, if depending on your business, could give you quite a lot of information on what kind of contract might be useful for you to target, and maybe what kind of contracts aren't really gonna provide you a lot of room to work with, like this one was probably awarded to Pfizer for 10.5 billion and it only has one award. So you can see that there's a difference in there. Let's go to vendor though. So vendor, now you're looking at who is in the medical category, who are the folks that are the top 20 or less folks, businesses that are in the medical category in FY22 based off of obligated dollars. You could also change this by PID count. So however many awards they got awarded. This changes it a lot. So beforehand, if you're looking at it by the dollar amount, we had Pfizer at the top, which makes sense because they were making a lot of those vaccines. 971 PIDs, $18 billion. But if you go by PID count doesn't necessarily mean they had the top amount of obligated dollars given to them, but they did get the most awards. So here you can start seeing that the top business within the medical category for FY22, based off of the number of PIDs that they were awarded or won, is AmerisourceBergen Drug Corporation. They got 384,000 awards, which total to almost $2 billion. So you can do a little bit of snooping with this. You could even go down to PSC and NAICS codes and do the same kind of thing. So which PSC code, if you know your PSC code, which one has the most PIDs, or you could switch it back to dollars and say which one makes the most money. Medical and surgical instruments, equipment, and supplies has 521,000 awards that were given out in 2022. What about NAICS codes? Okay, 423450. If you're working in this specific NAICS code, and you scroll over it, because as you see, the name is too long to see it here. You can scroll over it and the thing pops up. It's showing you that you had 531,000 awards in 2022 with a total of $909 million. So that's pretty cool. If you want to get more information, maybe get a little bit more detail about, say, that NAICS code, when you click it, we populate this graph on the side. Give it a moment. Okay. Here we are. So we've got a bunch of data here. We've got the description of requirement, which is kind of hard to read here. Don't worry, we're going to get to a better screen for more detailed information like this in a moment. But what I want y'all to be able to see from here is that you can click on this and it'll start parsing out based off of this thing that you chose. This is the selected detail, or the selected distribution, which is that NAICS code. So everything that you see here in this graph are the specific PIDs, all of the awards that were happening under this NAICS code. I'm not going to scroll through all 531,000 though, so I'm going to leave that to y'all. Good news is that y'all can actually download this data for free into a CSV or Excel file and put it into whatever kind of system that you have at your business. Sorry, I unclicked off of that first one. Clicking on the second one now, you can see the award type. So it's delivery order. You can see modification numbers, ref PIDs. Ref PID is like the larger piece of the contract. A PID is more of like the award. You can see the dollars obligated for this specific ref PID. You can see the vendor name. You can see the description of requirements. So when you download this, that description of requirement is going to really help you out. But we're going to look at description of requirement on the next more detailed page to give you a better idea of how that's helpful. It's basically describing why it was bought by the agency. Some of them are helpful, some of them are not. But some other things that I like to show y'all, this is something that I do all the time. If I'm asked to do some kind of analysis, I'll take that PID number and I just go ahead and type it in SPE2D322F0492. Now, depending on how big these are and how small they are, you may or may not get a whole lot of answers. but you can sometimes find a little bit more information if you just do a quick Google search. So I would suggest sometimes if you found something that's pretty big on here, sometimes you're going to find an award on here that was for a few million, maybe even $1 billion, and you can Google search that PID and find out some more information online about it. Okay, so the other thing that you can do is find out, what top NAICS code is here, by PID count or by obligations, and you can go in to say, let's say sam.gov. This is where we go, where I'm adding a little bit more onto this dashboard for y'all. If you go to sam.gov and go to contract opportunities, this is going to make your search through here way, way easier. I mean, you go to advanced search. So you're in sam.gov, you're going to contract opportunities. If you're registered on here and you use this, then you already know what I'm talking about. But if you're trying to look for, say, a notice type of a solicitation, you're looking for some new business, right? But you need a little bit of help trying to figure out how exactly to parse out all of these solicitations. Let's go to product or service invitation. Now, from this dashboard, we know exactly what NAICS code that we want to look at. We know that this NAICS code by PID count has the most amount of awards. So 423, 450. Right? So now you've pulled up all of the contract opportunities and solicitations that are publicly being solicited based off of that NAICS code. And you can start looking through all of those and try to find some new business. So there you go. That's kind of the value that I wanted to show y'all you could get pretty quickly from this market research, how it's going to immediately show you exactly what you need to advance your business for free. I think the only other thing that I wanted to show y'all here was that you can see the tiers as well and filter by the tiers. A tier is a designation given to a contract. So the reason why it's important is because agencies directed by OMB have to hit certain spend and obligation requirements based off of tiers. And agencies are setting their own goals to hit those targets based off of the contract tier designation. So your award tier, this is what it looks like. You've got all these. BIC is your best in class. It's your most vetted contract vehicle. In order for a contract to become BIC, I'm sure you're somewhat familiar with that phrase, but it just means that it has to go under certain, more stipulations in order to maintain BIC status. Agencies really like that one. But it does not by any means have the most spend or PIDs, and in fact only takes up about 13% of total obligations. So don't worry if you're not approved to work on a BIC contract. Being on a contract that is tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 1 small business, tier 2 small business, that is also very good because agencies call that spend under management, SUM. And agencies have a goal set at the beginning of every fiscal year to hit a certain amount of SUM, to hit a certain amount of BIC. Tier 0 is going to be outside of those scopes. Tier 0 contracts do not fall within a spend under management umbrella or categorization. So that is another point that I wanted to bring up, is that you could start filtering by tier 0 or tier 1 or tier 2 or BIC or none or all, and start piecing out which contracts that you want to go after based off of that information. If you know that you're on a certain contract and you want to know whether it's a tier 1 or tier 2 or BIC or whatever, you can come and use this tool and figure that out. Or if you're trying to hunt down a tier 2 small business or tier 1 small business contract that you would like to be a part of, then you can do that here. Let's pretend we want to try to get a tier 1 or tier 2 contract, whether it's small business or not. Big, maybe not, because it's kind of hard to get on those and it's not really the big chunk of the pie anyways. But we want to be on a sum contract, spend under management. And we are offering medical services. We're in the medical category and we're in FY22 currently. So we're looking at the top NAICS codes right now by award tier, but that's not really going to help us. What we need to look at is the named contract. So now what we've done is we are filtering this top end analysis, top 20 or less. And what we're trying to do is find out what are the tier 1 and tier 2 contracts at the top of the medical category. Let's change it to obligated dollars. Okay, so now we have the named contracts. Obviously, that one with the COVID antiviral treatment is at the top. Community Care Network regions has about 7 PIDs and it's got about 9.2. Here's a good one, Pharmaceutical Prime Vendor Program. So we've got $8.3 billion on that contract and almost 2,000 awards. So, and now we know that it does fall under tier 1, tier 2, tier categorization. If you want to learn more about that one, because it's got a lot of spend, it looks like it has enough awards for you to compete in, we can click on it and right here in the detailed information, we can see that it is a tier 2 contract. So that information can also be helpful. I'm going to pause there for a moment just to let all that kind of sink in. Top end analysis, kept categories, kept funding department, kept the same year. You can use the breakout by filter to go through, look at the top categories, top vendors, top contracts, top PSC codes and NAICS codes. You can switch it by the amount of dollars obligated or the amount of awards, PID count. You can also look at your award tiers. You can break it out by business size and type. This is the other one that I'm sorry, I forgot I should have brought up. Veteran-owned small business, service-disabled veteran-owned small business. So we're working with veterans today. Veteran-owned small business, tier 1 through 2 in the medical category during FY22. If you are a veteran-owned small business in the medical category, you can now see that the top named contract by obligated dollars in FY 2022 was the VA VOSB Tier 1 small business contract. It had $1.1 billion and 7,000 awards. What if we wanted to look at funding departments? VA, DOD, Army, DHS, Air Force, HHS. Not surprising, but VA, I do know already is a top spender. What if we wanted to look at NAICS codes, right? You're small owned veteran, business owned, veteran owned small business, and you're trying to see what are the top NAICS codes in the medical category that I should be going for. By obligated dollars. Temporary help services is up there. Surgical appliances and supplies manufacturing is up there. Surgical and medical instrument manufacturing. See, so based off of what your business is, based off of what category you fall into, the size and type, maybe you're a service disabled veteran owned small business, you can come here and search based off of all the contracts, some types of contracts. You can really play with all of this stuff and see. So if we look at all the contracts, not just the sum tier 1 through 2, if we want to look at everything, all of the types of contracts, we still have kind of the same thing. So you can see that that these NAICS codes are still at the top. You can see what vendors are at the top here. So First Nation Group, Medical Place, Trill A Med. You can go to PID count and see not by dollars, but who had the most awards, who was the veteran-owned small business that got the most awards in the medical category in FY 2022. Boom, 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 boom. Top 20 or less. We've got a lot of information. You can click on the one that you want, get detailed information about each one of their description of requirements, their PID number, their ref PID. If you found a really big award that you're curious about, this one's $29,000. I'm sure you can scroll down through here and find something else. There's a better way to do that, by the way. I wouldn't suggest scrolling through this. This is for kind of a quick look. The next thing I'm going to show you will be better, but that's the power of this tool, guys. It is making something that could be very complicated to do on your own with the raw data very, very straightforward. All you got to remember is just what each one of these filters is trying to tell you. Level 1 category through 3 category is your business type. You can get even further specific, not just medical, but maybe you're specifically drugs and pharmaceutical products. You can filter by the funding department. You can break out by all these different ways. Okay. I think I've gone through this one quite a lot. So we're going to move on to something called the awards exploration tool. I remember I promised that we're going from very large, like very high level, very general, to very, very specific. Now we're at the point where we're very specific, and we're going to start winding down to the end of the presentation. The things here are going to be pretty quick because you've already learned a lot of what I wanted to teach you. You've learned about the categories. You've learned about what to focus on the funding department. You've looked at breakout by, do you want to look at it by vendors? Do you want to look at it by categories, NAICS codes? You looked and found out that you can filter specifically by your business type, your size, whether you're a large business or a veteran-owned small business. Now we're in the most, how do I put it, detailed and granular part of this entire presentation. This is the table that's going to show you even more data, even more columns based off of your filters. You can filter by a specific vendor. You can filter by PSC code, NAICS code. Remember, I taught y'all what tiers were. Tiers are important because agencies have specific goals. You can filter by level 1 category, by funding department. We've learned all of this stuff. You can have multiple years in this one. You don't have to just choose one. You can filter by the specific contract. All these contracts are here. You can search. You can type in a search and find it. You can type in a specific PID or a reference PID. Here we still have veteran-owned small business. Little tip note, your filters will follow you as you move through the dashboard. If you remember from the beginning and you want to just kind of go back to nothing to start over, you can click revert. Revert will take you back to everything is set back to 0, basically. You have no filters specified. Everything is just very, very general. But let's say we want to do FY22. Everything's going to kind of change up. I'm going to set a couple of filters and show you the most important part of this one, which is downloading this data for free and how to get the most columns included from this page. Sorry. So this is one of the points that I was talking about was we're doing a live demo. Sometimes it takes a little time to load up. And this one has the most amount of data. So it takes a little bit more time. And it also depends on how many people are using it. Let's say we want to look at IT. We're going to do IT spend. We're going to come to business size. We're going to do veteran-owned small business again. So we're parsing this down further and further and further. We're going to keep all tiers. If you have PSC codes or NAICS codes that you really want to use, you can do that. Okay, so I think this is pretty good. You've got basically in this setup, you're looking at the whole IT category. If you have a business that is a veteran-owned small business and you work in the IT category and you want to find out what was spent in 2022, now you can have a data set that shows you what funding department bought it, the agency and the specific office. You have the contracting agency and contracting office, which is not a detail I will get into right now. It's not extremely important. You have level 1, 2, and 3 category. You have the business tier, which is awarded to the contract. You have the award type, the contract name, PSC code, NAICS code, the business determination, whether it was a small business or not, and then total amount of obligations for that, either the whole thing or the line. You can, before you download this, and we're gonna get into that part right now, you go to select detail level, and you want to get complete. Now, you get complete, and on here, it's not going to look pretty. We're going to be honest. It's really hard to get all of this data in here and make it look nice. The point of having it complete is so that way you can download as much as possible. What this adds in is stuff like description of requirement, which can tell you a lot about what was just bought. It also includes your vendor and a couple of other very important things. See, so you can see that this was Salesforce ELA. Here's a software purchase, transition, and post-implementation support. The vendor was Goldman, Golch. I can't read that currently, but you have a lot of information here. You have the ref PIDs, the PIDs, the modification numbers. Here's dates now. You have the ultimate completion date. So you know the dates that these contracts will end, and also the dates that they were started, and then also the obligations. If you ever forget how to download the data, the instructions are put right here at the top. Instructions for detail report. To export this data, select your detail level from the drop down at the far left. We did that. We chose complete because we want as much as we can. Click the download icon at the bottom, click cross tab, and then choose data results. Again, all of these points, all of these highlights, all of these steps, and all of these instructions are on the slides that I wrote and will be provided to you after this presentation. So that way, if you forgot anything or you want to run through this on your own, every little step that I just talked about is in a bullet point format. So that way you can say, oh yeah, that's right. This is what category means. This is what funding department means. Here's all of these little extra tips that I mentioned. So download is right here. Sorry, I went through that really fast. This is at the bottom of every single dashboard that we go to. It's at the very bottom. Remember, revert is to make everything go back to blank, start from square one. Refresh is just to refresh the page if your internet is being weird or if maybe there's an update. Download, you can also go full screen, but download is what we're talking about. According to the instructions, it said hit cross tab. Okay, and then it says data results. Data results complete, data results summary. No, we want complete. And then you click CSV. Choose CSV. You can change stuff in Excel later, but CSV is the easiest way to download it. And then you click download. It'll take a minute depending on how large data set you're downloading. We're downloading currently all of IT for a vendor-owned small business in FY22. So that's about, as we can see over here, 7.8 $9 billion to spend. And now it's right here on my desktop. I can open it up. I can put it into whatever kind of Power BI or Tableau that I have, or just take a look at it in Google Sheets or in Excel, Microsoft Office. You can sort it by top dollar or PID number or ref PID. It's yours to manipulate and use. So that brings us to the end of this presentation and this demo. I'm going to do a quick recap just so that way, because we have time. If you click on home, remember, let's go to the very beginning. So let's get rid of this. Just going to run through everything real quick one more time at light speed. hallways.cap.gsa.gov brings you to our homepage. Acquisition Gateway has a lot of resources for y'all. We go to resources and about category management, and that brings us to this page. Data and dashboards. Public category management dashboards. The CM reporting workbench. That brings us to our quick analysis page where we started and we learned about level 1 and funding department. We have top end analysis. It tells us the top 20 or less things based off of our filters. And then we ended with awards exploration tool. You do have other dashboards here that you can play with. We don't have time today to go through all of them. We obviously have a lot, but these are all free, all ready for you. And I believe very useful. So I will conclude my presentation now. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. I really enjoy giving this presentation because I believe that whether you're in an agency or whether you're owning your own business, this is providing you the data that you really, really need to answer really important questions and help you find opportunities for yourself or find out how to strategize. So let's see, stop share. And I'll open up the floor for questions actually. So I'll leave this open in case anybody has questions, but thank you all for coming. If you have questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. I'm here for another bit to see what anybody would like to ask.
So Richard, thank you. Lots of really, really great information. There was some awesome comments in the chat. I did see a few questions. Let me read a couple that I saw and then ask folks to just put back up the questions if I don't ask them. But there was one about, I know you talked about the tiers and the definitions of the tiers, but I think there was a couple of questions people maybe if you could just run through it again.
Okay.
Because,
Yeah, I'll give you a general overview. A tier is a designation given to a contract. What they describe about the contract to agencies is their level of scrutiny about their terms, the vendors that are allowed on them, and the work that can be done through them. The reason why I believe that it's important for business owners within the federal marketplace to understand tiers at a basic level is because agencies have goals based off of tiers and based off of BIC. BIC is technically a tier. Every year, agencies are going to set a certain goal based off of obligation amount. So think about it like this year, for my agency, I want my agency to spend this many dollars through a tiered, a spend under management tier contract. To make that a little bit more clear, over here in this corner, I've brought up the filter for tiers, and it's showing you all of the different tiers that we have. Tier 0 is not spend under management. It basically means that it's a contract that has no real official name. Tier 1 through 2 and BIC are contracts that have specific names. I'm very familiar with the IT category, so something like NASA SOUP or GSA Schedule 70 falls under Tier 1 through BIC. So if you know that you're on one of those contracts, or if you know that a certain agency has a goal for a certain amount of sum is spend under management, you can start looking at what contracts are Tier 1 through 2 or BIC and target some of those. Or if you're on a contract, you can find out if that contract is spend under management or not. But that's the most important things I believe that business owners in this federal marketplace need to know about tiers.
Richard, that's great. And one thing I might add, just because of from my background of being in government, Tier 0 generally meant it was an agency award. It was like a specific agency award so it's not a interagency, not something like a GWAC.
Right,
like
government-wide.
Right, not like a government-wide contract. So, but another question that was put up there is this data limited to just GSA schedule awards?
No, not at all. I mean, I think we, looked at that pretty in-depthly in the top end analysis that you could go by top contracts within the, whatever category you want. Let's look at medical. And, I don't think any of these top ones, I don't recognize them, but, these are, you have the VA, VSOB Tier 1, that's definitely not GSA. So no, this is all of FPDS.
Okay, great. Someone else asked, does the data have the contracting officer information?
That one, I do not believe we have the specific contracting officer, but if you want to get into the contracting office, you can look at what specific contracting office took care of it, and that could lead you to the contracting officer, because you might have enough information from here to do a little detective work, because you will have the PID number, the ref PID number, the modification number, you'll have the contracting office. And you could probably use those things to find out about the contracting officer, or maybe close to it. But I don't think we have the specific contracting officer name or contact information in here on that. I don't think that's included in FPDS.
Okay. Someone else asked, do you need a DoD email to register? I don't think so.
Nope. Nope. As I mentioned in the beginning, when you get to this page here, there's government only category, and then there's public category management dashboards. This CMR dashboard is under public category management dashboards. Public meaning open for everyone, to the public. You can get on this at a library computer, your personal laptop, your phone probably can't handle it, but this is public. You do not need any special permissions, email, or passwords to get into this.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Someone else asked, after they play around with it a little bit, are you available can they reach out to you with follow-up questions?
So the person or the email, I believe I provided to Aaron, who might be able to disseminate that email. But I'm going to put it in the chat too, just for everybody. GovWide CM dashboards at gsa.gov. So you want to make sure I spelled that right. GovWide dashboards at gsa.gov. That email, I'm sorry, let me do everyone in meeting. Sometimes Zoom automatically sets me to a specific person. So that email that I just shared in the chat to everyone, that's the email that you want to reach out to if you have questions about the dashboard.
Okay, excellent. I don't know if I got everybody's question. If I did not, if you want to put it back up in the chat, please feel free to do so now. Otherwise, I see lots of kudos and awesomes and great presentation, and everybody I think is anxious to go and play around with it. And I can tell you on a personal level, after I saw this a month or so ago when Richard demoed it to us, I played around with this quite a bit, and it is really, really easy to use, very intuitive. I mean, the more you play with it, the more information that you find, and it's really, really awesome.
I agree. If I was a business owner, I would, especially
Yeah.
government contractor, I would love this thing.
Yeah. Someone else asked, does the dashboard team offer additional training on the dashboard or other videos?
I do believe if you go to the first link that I provided, hallways.cap.gsa.gov, under that same way, we have tutorials. We also have resources. If you go about category management, small business and industry partners, this will probably lead you to some things. I know we do have more training somewhere, but what I would recommend is emailing the email that I put in the chat, government-wide CM dashboards at gsa.gov. That'll go to the whole dashboard team, and the people in there that answer that, they'll be able to provide the direct link to any tutorials and things like that for this. But also, if you're looking for something specifically for this dashboard, at least, I know this recording will be shared.
Okay, great. Thanks. Though, another question, what category would 3D printing be in? Industrial or special services?
Industrial or percent? I mean, we do have an industrial products and services. What I would do is find out what NAICS code that is first. And then once you find that NAICS code, you can plug it in to this dashboard here. I would probably come to either the top N or the awards exploration tool, and then come to the NAICS code. Sorry, it's loading right now because it has to load all that stuff. But if you can figure out what NAICS code that is, you can come to this dashboard. Make sure you select all level 1 categories, and then under the NAICS code, you plug in that specific number, and then when it populates this page down here, it will tell you what level 1 category that falls into. So that's how you'd be able to find it. But I would first start with the NAICS code or the PSC code. If there's a specific one, plug that into this dashboard, and then see down here what level 1, level 2, and level 3 categories it falls into. I wish I could show you some. There might be people using it right now that we're finished, because it's running a lot slower. But that's how I would go about it.
Okay. Well, Richard, thank you so much. I don't see any other general questions. So I just want to really thank you again for taking the time for a really informative presentation, and just excellent information for everyone. I encourage everyone to really play around with this tool, because it is, again, it's easy to use, and just lots of great market research information. So thank you again, Richard, taking the time. Thank you to all the participants for attending this session, and to the SBA for making this webinar possible. As a reminder, VIP is currently taking applications for all 5 curriculums, and particularly the next one that we have is VIP International, which is going to be at the end of March. And we still have slots open, so if you're interested, just go to our website at nationalvip.org. and sign up. So next presentation for this series is going to be part 3. Not next week. We're skipping next week because there's a national 8A conferences next week. So a lot of us will be down there in New Orleans. Hopefully to see some of you there, but we will resume the following week on Tuesday, where we're going to have Summit Insights. Judy Bratt is going to present on how to use SAM contract data to identify opportunities. So a little bit more about market research. And so with that, thanks again, Richard. Appreciate your time. And thanks to everybody for joining us today. So have a great day and a great successful rest of your week. Take care.
Thank you so much. It was an
Thank
awesome
you.
day. Appreciate it.
Yes, excellent. Thank you, Richard. Take care. Bye.